Powell sparks a rally. Of course, the market is starting to heat up. Today, we'll break it down for you. You don't want to miss it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into the show. Let's get started. I do want to thank our partner today, and that, of course, is Gemini. You guys can jump over to Gemini.com. Not only get in on first in-class embedded smart wallets, which is all available over there, but also into very active trading. If you want to hold some crypto, this is the place to do it. Just visit Gemini.com. One new announcement that they did, which is huge, is their credit card business, is you jump over their Twitter account. Look at that right there. We have an XRP coming August 25th, so be on the lookout for that. Of course, that will probably heat up a little bit of the XRP trading over there. It's going to be interesting. Check the link down below. It does help the channel. I want to open up today on a clip before I bring in Evan, who's going to chart a lot of tokens that could be on the move. We'll also take a look at Evan's altcoin portfolio. You don't want to miss that one because it is going to show you guys some interesting things. Let's go to this opening clip.
In the near term, risks to inflation are tilted to the upside and risks to employment to the downside, a challenging situation. When our goals are in tension like this, our framework calls for us to balance both sides of our dual mandate. Our policy rate is now 100 basis points closer to neutral than it was a year ago, and the stability of the unemployment rate and other labor market measures allows us to proceed carefully as we consider changes to our policy stance. Nonetheless, with policy in restrictive territory, the baseline outlook and the shifting balance of risks may warrant adjusting our policy stance. Monetary policy is not on a preset course. FOMC members will make these decisions based solely on their assessment of the data and its implications for the economic outlook and the balance of risks. We will never deviate from that approach.
Okay, so this, of course, blew up the internet and blew up the crypto markets as well as also the traditional markets. A lot happening out there. I want to bring in Evan Aldo to kind of chat with this topic and this event moving forward. What did you think about this, Evan? Were you surprised?
Well, a little bit. He caved
Just
more
say
so,
it.
but when you
Just say it. You were surprised, weren't you?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Powell is not strong anymore. He caved. Trump always wins. TA above
Well,
all.
let's get into. I want to get into the charts. We're gonna take a look at Ethereum. Of course, it's doing crazy. But before you guys do that, go over to Evan's channel right there. You guys can do it. And it's man, you hit 20K. Hello. Now we're in the big leagues, baby. Now we're in the big leagues. Good, congratulations to you. You guys subscribe to this channel right here. This is the guy that can give you some alpha on trading tactics, and check it out. Let me jump over to this tweet. So his suggestion was that current conditions may warrant interest rate cuts. So the conditions that we've been talking about quite a bit, and that I always state, and I look at it in a sense of, rather than the numbers, that get, come out of the government and the bureaucrats, is I believe that if you follow the companies, traditional companies, whether they're public or private, listen to what those executives are saying, because they will tell you a different story in many cases. And they have been saying to me for the last year that the labor market is in trouble. And of course, now we're starting to see it. It's a lagging indicator that often the Fed gets with. So that's the big problem that I think we're faced with right now. The S&P surges over 80 points right now. Evan, would you put anything in crypto adjacent stocks right now? Coinbase, BMNR, if you were looking at Ethereum treasury companies, anything at all?
At this point, I think it'll probably go up, yes, but it's more about get in and get out in a few months, kind of, I would say. I mean, those other ones, I would say SBET, BMNR, be careful. I think they will go up, but I'd rather just buy ETH, to be honest with you. I'd rather buy ETH right now.
The direct, asset. I think that's something that plays into a lot of people's strategy. Let's get into a report from CNBC, because they're kind of breaking down why he's cutting. And I'll explain a little bit more about this, but let's play that clip.
What I've written down is 4 reasons why the Fed may cut and 1 reason why it may not. So it's 4-to-1 in that regard. It may cut because the current rate is moderately restrictive, because the labor market is unlikely to lead to high inflation. That's a pretty important point. He kind of has adopted Fed Governor Chris Waller's take on that. They're going to cut because the downside risks to employment have risen and because tariffs are likely a one-time price increase. I would say reading that statement, maybe I'm missing one, the only caveat to all that is, obviously he didn't mention this, but the data to come in the coming months, and that inflation expectations remain well anchored. So I think he's pointed us to a rate cut in September with just a few caveats relative to the data and inflation expectations.
So my take on this is that this is the tilting or the turning of the Titanic. We are moving into whether many people might call it or consider it maybe a super cycle, possibly heating up, going into later this year with Fed rate cuts, and I think we'll see multiple. Then you start to roll into now kind of dead man walking, going into his May exit, which is going to place another friendly in the Fed, which, of course, who knows where that's going to take it from here. How do you see the year end playing out on, and let's stay with Ethereum. If you go to your chart right now, what does it look like for ETH?
It looks great, Paul. I mean, you got your main target here. If we can hold, 46, 4,700, you easily have a target at 5,300, and we could just take that, basic TA, your next base is going to be 5,300. I think you should be able to get there by end of month at 5,300. Now, generally in post-halving years, the last two of them, you did see a red October. It would not surprise me, red September. It would not surprise me into that rate cut, coming back just a little bit into that rate cut. And I'm kind of hoping we come back into that rate cut, because usually the rate cut is a change in momentum. If you could come into the rate cut a little bit on a pullback, a little bit bearish, I think that should be able to take you up into a major altcoin season come October and come into November. Those 2 months I think are going to be really crucial. And then getting into the end of the year, probably October the earliest, 7,400. Now, if we make a new all-time high by the end of this month, I think I could be, a little bit too optimistic, but I think you might be able to, just might, sometime in November, December, 10K or 11K, absolute max, but I would be scaling out right when you hit that 7K from October. So that's kind of my plan. I'm not saying we're going to 10K, but it's possible.
Yeah, I don't think Evan Aldo ever sees 10K. I think you're out. I think you're out of there. I'm just joking. I'm playing it, because I think a lot of people who are very convicted on Ethereum are like, hey, 10K, who knows? I'm going to stay in this asset for years, that kind of thing. But
Sure.
you look at some of the indicators that we've been showing here on the show. One, of course, that I will say everybody has pointed to has been Polymarket. Now, Polymarket became very erratic right here. This was back here on July 31st. Things started shifting dramatically. We saw these crazy shifts, all with basic attention being driven in from Powell, the Trump administration, all these things. And to me, I look at this and I look at the erratic nature of what's happening in the prediction markets, and I think, wow, Polymarket actually got it wrong. I believe got it wrong here in the sense there was so much erratic behavior on where the market thought it was going, and then Powell turns around and does something here. Maybe Besant and Trump had some influence on this. It's very possible. There's been a lot of pressure from this administration. But I was surprised that Powell readjusted. Now, do I think he was right to do that? Well, I think he should have done it in July, which is what we were calling for, July, because that might have been able to save a little bit of the labor market. And that's the concern I have right now. I don't know if we can save the labor market, because it takes months, if not a year, for many of these businesses to recorrect. Walmart was a good example. They had terrible earnings. I think their next quarter is going to even be worse, which is only going to put more pressure on them to lay people off. And that's the lagging effect that you can't really, adjust to. With that being said, this was your tweet right there. I'm not going to lie. I'm hoping we pause, but that was only because you're thinking that this aligns with your 4-year cycle. So I get it. So he's not going to pause. So September, you're going to see a run up. How does that change your vision of the 4-year cycle now?
I think all it does, it really probably is a little bit better in some ways. I mean, it depends how you look at it, but I do think it'll give an alt season in October. I still think that Bitcoin's got a good shot of peaking out in October, but it may be more like 2017 into 2018 where alts could ride for another 1 to 2 months into potentially the end of the year. So I want to reiterate my strategy: scale out from October to December. Not financial advice, just what I'm going to do here.
Yeah, yeah.
Scale
Well,
out
and
slowly October.
we're going to take a look at the portfolio, because we have Evan's altcoin portfolio that we mapped up about a month and a half ago. We're going to continue to showcase it here, and we'll show you when we're exiting, as well. So each of these kind of trades that we're going to be doing. Lark Davis was out there. God candle coming in on ETH, one of the largest he had ever seen. Where we are right now on Ethereum, do you see a pivot on this just on the response, and do you think ETH will go into the weekend trying to challenge its all-time high?
It should, Paul. I mean, it's so hard to say. I think the main thing I'll show you on the chart here, if we go more in the short term on Ethereum, I mean, place that we want to break through, this is our old all-time high, 4,800. So if we were to lose this spiral line right here in the next few hours, then it would get tougher. Maybe it's kind of a rejection. If I had to guess, I think we should come up to this level again. If we can break, if we could break the new all-time high, that would be great, or get close to it, then that's a new all-time high right there. It's marked out. The area here, this is our previous, so this is important to kind of break through as well. So what we don't want to do, the main thing, we just don't want to lose this. You want to kind of keep this general area of 4,600. As long as we do that, we should be all the good for 5,300 by end of the month and the new all-time high. That's what I think will happen, but been wrong before. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's play it on the counter trade, because a lot of ETH shorts just got wrecked this morning in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
So is there an opportunity here for a pullback? And if there was, where would you look at it? If ETH were to run up to its all-time high and it doesn't break it, do you think we could see a pullback, or do you feel like this blasts through?
I think it blasts through, but if you do see I think my guess is that the 4,000 mark, again, kind of where we were, would be the place that you pull back if you reject partially from that old high. But I think there's so much hype, Paul. If you can break through a new all-time high, you're probably going up to 5,000.
The carry on this is just so strong right now, because I think all the major networks are going to be pumping on what is happening in the traditional markets. That money's going to start flowing into yield assets like Stable. Stable is already seeing outflows that are crazy. Last time I think we saw stablecoin outflow was when ETH eclipsed 3 grand. So a lot of definite moves out there in the market. And as far as Bitcoin versus ETH right now, how would, if you take a look at that chart, obviously it's been trending up for some time. Do you think there's any correlation to a Bitcoin ETH trade down the road?
I think it's going to keep going generally. I think you're at least going to get up to this point, the 4.049, and then the big trend line here from this old all-time high on it, June of 2017, would be at 0.055. So that's up from where we are right now, about another 40% jump. So yeah, I think this should at least get up to here. If you can break above there, you might be able to come up to your highs of August of 22, but that would be probably like a 10K ETH at that point. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves. But I think, this should keep going for a few more months generally. So yeah.
Raul Powell out on this topic. The big game yet to be played. Total 3, total market cap excluding Bitcoin and ETH. So we're still looking at a potential here for an altcoin run. In terms of the altcoins that you could look at, we're going to take a look at some layer ones. And I think when you look at Optimism, this of course being kind of a beta on ETH, are you looking at Optimism right now? And can we chart that one?
Yeah, I mean, it looks good. It's a big area. Huge bubble pop pattern right here. And then I think at least, you should see, this is just basic strategy, reverse head and shoulders. If you break up from here, you look at $1.50 at least. So at least a double. I think your average altcoin will do a 2 to 3x at least. So, I'd say probably worst case scenario for this $1.50. Best case scenario, you might be able to get back to $4 or something. So we'll see. Yeah.
What about Polygon? This is another one right here. Polygon just added 60 billion in RWA value. This is getting ready to play. We finally might see Polygon come off the mat.
Yeah, let's take a look. So when you look at Polygon right here, just a nice reverse head and shoulders pattern, one of my favorite patterns in a bull market. easily a 30-cent token. I think if you could break above there, 40 cents. I mean, I think you got a real good shot of doing a 3x here, about 5 cents. But compared to the real old all-time high, I don't even look at the Matic chart with the real old all-time high. It's too depressing if you own this like I do. But let's get it up to 75 cents. That would be a good goal for end of year. Two or 3x, I think you could easily do. So yeah.
As far as the altcoin market and everybody kind of thinking that our season is going to cycle in, could we risk the issue, and this is something that I've talked to a couple of analysts on, could we risk the issue of the altcoin, I should say, outside the top 100, never truly running because we've got so much institutional capital pushing these major projects higher, and that would say the top 25 to top 50 tokens. Any risk there on altcoin markets not actually seeing a bull run?
It's hard to say. I mean, I personally don't own too many outside the top 100. It does make sense, yeah, over time. But then you see all the meme coins and other speculative stuff. So I think for that, some of them definitely will do well. I don't know. That's a good question, Paul. I really don't know. I think it's riskier. The farther you get down, the more risky it becomes, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the meme coins that is rallying right now that is in the top 100 is Pudgy Penguins. We had Luca Netz on earlier this week, and his position was pretty straightforward. We're going to flip Doge, and the reason was simple. Doge had kind of basically spent its time in the sun. We haven't seen a big pump with these recent ETH run-ups. And maybe now it is time for the baton to be passed. When you look at PENGU, do you think it has a shot? I know we're going to show the chart. PENGU is in our portfolio, and there's a breaking news item in there. We'll talk about that. But as far as the PENGU, the chart, how would you look at this one right now?
It definitely has potential. If we go to the PENGU chart right over here, you kind of had a pullback. I think it's kind of hitting support in this area. Nice trigger wave forming on the 2-day. It generally looks pretty good. I think you got a good shot of getting back up to these highs at probably like 7 cents, so about a double. I think if all goes really well, you could see 11 cents, so a little over a triple. Definitely could be in the cards. I would guess this would kind of perform how your average decent altcoin performs, like a 2 to 3x. And I would think Doge would do something similar as well. I think Doge, a 2x would be, or a 3x would be the old all-time high. So for both of those, I would guess similar performances for both of those, like main, those are two of the biggest meme coins at this point. So.
Yeah. Well, you're not necessarily, we have Bonk, obviously, that plays in there in some of the top meme coins. But I'm kind of on Luca's, bandwagon with this one. I think there may be a shot that PENGU could catch a wave. There's a short and narrow window that it has to occur in. Some of the things that are going to happen from the economy, what we might see in terms of the crypto market itself, and a lot of people looking for liquidity exits, if they're taking profits on some things and trying to move into others. I think that will be the question mark going forward. Another one to kind of keep an eye on is Flow. This, of course, gets into one of their updates, have Disney Pinnacle partnership, which we've talked about a lot on this channel. But they also have a little bit of DeFi volume starting to move into this as well. If you look at Flow and where it is currently, is this something that you would go into today?
I mean, for a yes or no, it's not one of my favorite coins, but I don't like how it's bled so much. But I do think you're hitting a pretty good point here. Things are starting to look a little bit better. I think you got a good shot of, what I really want to see this do, which would be over a 3x back up to these areas. But, you're first you got to break above kind of 70 cents, these places in the middle. So I don't like it as much as a lot of other things we looked at, but I think you got a good shot of getting, a double, 70 cents or there, and then hopefully up to 140. But I don't know. This chart just looks kind of depressing to me. I want to see a little bit more momentum here before I really pull the trigger on this one.
Okay. All right. Well, we got a lot to look at here on your portfolio. If you guys did not know, Evan and I, well, we shared it on the show. We told everybody we were going to do this, and I think we've showed it once. I'm going to show it again. Currently, right now, Evan, we are in all-time profit of 13, almost 14% currently on the day. And I've got this sorted by our profit zones, which we've got Ethereum setting at the top, Chainlink in the number 2 slot right now. Arbitrum setting in the number 3 slot, Aave coming in number 4 in terms of profit, not necessarily in terms of holding, and then Solana nailing the top 5. Even Cardano makes it in there. If we go on based on our holdings right now, still ETH, Arbitrum, Solana, and Chainlink, and then Injective is our position, and then we have Aave, Avalanche, and Tau sliding in. So this has been a position where we are. Evan and I built this portfolio several weeks back. We purchased into that time. I think we told the Diamond Circle this is what we're doing. And so far, performance is doing fairly well. If you look at the all-time profit versus Bitcoin's trend, we're up significantly right there. And allocation, of course, the portfolio, of course, took a spike today just because of what's happening in the market. And we were so top-heavy on ETH. Is there anything, Evan, that you would add to this portfolio right now? If you said, Paul, let's go out and buy this token, what would it be?
Well, I don't want to throw you under the bus, but I think I had Polygon in there instead of Pengu. So maybe
go ahead. Let's throw me under the bus. Let's do it. Let's go to my loss leader. Let's take it right there.
I think but you know,
we bought Pengu. We bought Pengu at the wrong time. I think that was our issue. We bought it at the wrong time, but I think it's going to bail us out. Now, granted, it means we have to expand the portfolio, and we were talking. Let's keep it at the 100K min. What would we exit out of and move, let's say, 10% of that portfolio into? Let's go back to the portfolio real quick and take a look, because on the bottom side, let's go to our losers. Okay, let's go to our losers. And right there, our loser right now is Tau, Pengu, Hedera, and Sui setting at negative $100 right now. And then Jupiter, Near Protocol, and that's it. That's the only losers we have right now. Is there any of those that you would say, let's jettison that token and reposition that cash into something else?
I think the only one out of those, and I mean, it's hard to say, the only one out of those may be Pengu versus like something that maybe could be more of a sleeper hit, like replace it with a Polygon or something. Or even, I think I originally had XRP on that list. Maybe even XRP's got some potential for a little bit more, but XRP at this point, I don't know.
Okay, probably say XRP. Okay, why are you saying XRP has some potential? Let's go look at the chart real quick.
XRP, it's always, let's take a look at XRP. I do think, to be fair, I do think Polygon will probably outperform it. But if you want a slightly safer bet than a Pengu, than I think XRP still has a decent shot at $4. So, up here, maybe even $6, maybe even.
Well, it's trading at $3 right now. That'd be a fairly nice move if we see
I think you could double. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so let's get together after the show today. Let's reformulate some of this lower portion of the portfolio and maybe even consider, I don't know if we would take profits on anything right now or not, but right now we're still looking at probably an October exit, maybe a November exit for some of these, right?
Scaling out from October to end of year, I think makes the most sense.
Evan, it was good seeing you. Thanks for coming on today. We appreciate it.
Great to be on. Always an honor, Paul. Thanks so much.
You bet. All right, guys, we will catch you soon right here on the Paul Barron Show. Take care.